to feel
the power.
This is Colin, Crandall over there, and myself, Adam Roorda, with another awesome episode. A little chilly here in the studio today, just prepping for our Frank Grillo episode interview that Colin had here a little bit ago, just a few hours ago actually, and it was absolutely amazing. We pre-recorded it, so you guys will be able to catch it, and we've also got two other amazing guests, both UFC fighters, and on a tear. So stay tuned for the rest of the episode. In the meantime, I want to go ahead and throw out our sponsors and partners of the show. We got Nesa's Hemp, that has one of the top CBD products out there. It's a CBDA product, actually. It's one of a kind, full spectrum hemp oil. Make sure to go to mmaph.nesashemp.com to get yourself a nice, amazing discount, the best on the market. And Colin, between them and my Mocha Tribe, we've got all of our CBD resources taken care of. Now, my Mocha Tribe has an amazing CBD coffee that you and I have tried out, and man,
yeah.
I just recommend everybody go on over there to mymochatribe.com and use MMA Power 10 for a 10% discount.
It's really good stuff, and I mean, I'll tell you guys one thing. Some of you know me personally, and some of you have just followed me for a while. Some of you have just recently started to watch me. I take endorsing anything or advertising really seriously. Like, first of all, you would never see me endorsing anything for cigarettes or alcohol. Don't believe in promoting either of those products. For CBD, hemp, or medicinal marijuana, I do believe in those, but I'm not going to just lend my name, Adam's name, our show's name to something that's crappy. I really wouldn't. And the bottom line is that we have tried these products before we agreed to make a deal with these companies, and they really do work. They're good quality stuff. You can smell the live and active ingredients, and you can tell that it's not some sort of BS or some sort of placebo. So really good stuff. Nesa's Hemp, support it, and the Mocha Tribe, absolutely. And
and I'm going to throw that Nesa's Hemp address up there so that way you spell it right. It's mmaph.nesashemp.com. It has one S in it. Oh, well, it's two S's, but it's NESAS, hemp.com. And make sure to put the MMAPH at the beginning to get yourself the biggest discount that you can. And I can't say enough how amazing this product is. And speaking of their product, I also want to throw out the best coffee you'll ever have from my Mocha Tribe. Really, it is the best coffee you'll ever have. They also have a non-CBD variety for those of you who don't want to even touch CBD, which I don't know why you wouldn't, but hey.
To each his own, right? But this is what you're getting here tonight, as every week, is 100% full spectrum MMA news and entertainment. And that's something that we pride ourselves on. And CBDA, we say to our Canadian friends, this is some good stuff here, eh? And we promise to bring good stuff to you every week. We've got a super power full show today. I couldn't decide between super powered and super powerful, but it is both of them, and we are really excited for the one pre-recorded segment from earlier today with actor and TV and film star Frank Grillo. You won't be able to ask any questions there. You can ask them, but they won't be able to be asked because that was pre-recorded. For the other segments here, we actually have one more for Francesca with her best bets and parlays. Unfortunately, that's not interactable either, as that's pre-recorded. But for our two guests, Jason Witt from the UFC and Jamahal Hill, both of those are live. And so you ask questions, we will try our very best to ask the questions of the fighters that you ask us. And we really appreciate you. Never a slight or a diss or anything disrespectful if somehow we can't ask your question, or if you try to talk to us while we're interviewing. If we miss you, we just don't want to be rude to the guests. But we appreciate you a lot, and we see your comments, and we will always try to get back when we can. So we do have still 5 more minutes till our first guest.
Yeah, man, you heard about this reported release of Overeem and Dos Santos. Man, that's insane.
Yeah, it really is. Two of their biggest stars, Junior Dos Santos, a former UFC champion, Alistair Overeem, a perennial top 10 contender, and for a while a top 5 contender, and at one point one of the most, one of the most decorated MMA fighters, or combat athletes in the world, being a champion I believe, a champion over in Pride, or maybe he never did win a title in Pride. But yeah, I think he didn't. But being a top contender in Pride, being a Strikeforce champion, being a K1 champion, back to the days when he was Uberim, a hulking 280-pound monster back before the USADA days, to the days where he did cut down and still show his skill and determination, the Demolition Man, although never a UFC champion. Absolutely one of the better, more exciting guys in the sport. And so, yeah, man, it's interesting, guys. Be curious to see what you think watching this. I think of the two, they both had a win or two in the last couple of years, but they also were getting smashed when they lost. Alistair, I think, is 42 and probably wasn't going to get any better. Junior Dos Santos was like 36, but with all respect to Cigano, he had a lot of miles on him, and he had been a pro, I think, since he was like 20 or 21 years old. He started early, and thank you. We already have some
some
Sean
fun comments
coming in here with the troll remark. Thank you, Sean. Anyway, so I don't know, guys. Curious to see what you think. I feel bad that they were dropped, but then I also wonder if it was just Dana having a heart and not wanting to see these guys beaten up anymore. It's, I think he does have a heart for that. Some people point out.
Oh yeah, he brings it up in his post-fight conferences all the time, man.
Yeah, he likes and respects these veterans. And although some people will say you're taking the money out of their mouth, but is it really worth it if the likelihood of them getting smashed again and again? Eventually you're trading a paycheck for your brain cells, and unfortunately that may not work. So let me see. Sean will look at his show. We'll check that out on YouTube, and then someone said it's badass. Right on, cool. But anyway, so I'll try not to be distracted here, but I'm always trying to be interactive, as I mentioned. Anyway, I guess it's probably for their better good, for JDS and for Alistair. I hope they have somehow enough money or close to it to retire on, and they certainly were just absolute warriors and amazingly courageous, brave, talented fighters. So big respect to Alistair Overeem and Junior Dos Santos. And this was reported first, giving credit where it's due to by MMA Junkie. If somehow they're wrong and these guys have not parted ways with the UFC, then blame them, not us.
And hey, it happens, man.
Yeah.
Well, we reported it as well, so we'll see. Hopefully that's all accurate. Colin, news isn't always accurate here, coming from a lot of the sources out there, but I trust MMA Junkie. I trust our reporters even more to do our due diligence, and they do. Speaking of, you guys should all go on over to our websites, MMAPowerHour.com. Get signed up for our mail list while you have an opportunity. We're not really doing anything with it now, but eventually we're going to be popping out all the most recent news, so it'll be going directly to your inbox. So get signed up now. You'll get all the most recent news, most recent rankings. You'll be getting all of the episodes, audio, video, everything that we have going out. We have tons of content being pumped out by multiple people on our team here. It's really been an amazing journey for the last 4 years, Colin, and we're pushing our 5th year. We're going into our 5th year.
Starting the beginning of the 5th year. Yeah, this is 4 full years in March. With that, that great first episode, just me and you chatting, and then we had Fabiano and Pat Miletich on that next episode, and then we were just rocking from there.
The evolution's insane.
It really is. What's ironic, man, is I think in that first year, in fact, I know it was, and it may have been in the first 2 or 3 months, we had Megan Anderson. Who knew that with all the hoopla that she had over in Invicta, who knew that it would take 3.5 more years for her to get to the title shot? I think it seemed like she was on the fast track, but they just couldn't connect her and Cyborg for some reason. Megan was down for it, but I think it's better now. Who knows? I think that then she may have been younger and more confident, never having had lost, and now she's got a few losses, but I think she's a better version of herself, more mature. She's still not old, and but congratulations to our guest from 2017, Megan Anderson, from the Gold Coast in Australia. Aussie, 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 as my friends say.
Aussie.
Oi, oi, oi. So I think Megan's going to give it her all, and virtually nobody believes in her, including the odds makers. But I think she does have a chance. Anyway, we are ready. Hate to keep our first guest waiting, so if you wanted to start working on him, I will improvise here as usual. Dr.
Oh, we're ready. Let's go into that Skype dance.
Let's rock it, man.
Skype dance. Hope you guys are dancing with us.
Hello, Jason. Are you there?
Get this video going. You there?
Fantastic. Yep, we're here. And then once you turn on the video, you will probably just be able to see yourself. But as long as you see that you're in the square, you're good to go. And you'll see we do split screens, alternating screens, and the show look good afterward. Anyway, I'm so excited to introduce you now, my friend. We are live. So, ladies and gentlemen, happy to have this next guest on the show. This is a man with a lot of talent. A lot of people believe in him, and he is known as the Vanilla Gorilla, Jason Witt. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
How you guys doing?
Doing good, man. Now, you are fighting at welterweight or at lightweight? At welterweight, I believe, right?
Welterweight, 170. Yep.
Excellent. So I want to say this man is a welterweight contender in the UFC. So if you haven't heard of him, like Dana White says, if you didn't know, now you know. And so Jason, we want to learn a lot more about you here, man, on this interview. Tell us, you do have a fight coming up. Let us know when that fight's going to be and the opponent.
Yeah. So I'm fighting Matthew Semmelsberger March 13th. So it'll be next Saturday in Vegas.
Nice. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
That's going to be a good fight because when it comes to burgers, everyone knows that a Semmelsberger is some tough meat to chew, I think. I don't know where I just came up with that, but I have a feeling that when it comes down to chewing some tough meat, a Vanilla Gorilla has that down, doesn't he?
Yes, I'm pretty sure gorillas are vegan, but hey, this is the Vanilla Gorilla, so it's a little bit different.
I love it, man. That's funny. I never thought of that. But that's good, man. You know, I like to throw out some dad humor, and you help me out with that because that is funny. You're right there, vegan. But anyway, all respect to Matthew Semmelsberger, and I'm never ripping on fighters, and my guests know that, and I hope you know of that. All respect to Semmelsberger. But what do you know about him, man? He's a tough fighter. Both of you guys have been looking really good. What's your thought about what he brings to the dance, and what kind of preparation have you done to be able to meet the fire with the fire?
Yeah, I don't know too much about him, except for what I've kind of watched on. I've never heard of him before we took this fight. You know, big guy, ex-football player, played safety, I believe, in whatever it was. You know, kind of a basic, kind of a Thai guy, good pressure fighter. Haven't seen a lot of his takedowns or grappling, so we're kind of going to test that. That's kind of where the main focus has been for this training camp, is really kind of pressure against the cage and take him down, out, and beat him up there. That was the whole game plan.
Very cool. Now, you have a lot more fights than him, a lot more experience. This is Semmelsberger's record, Dr. Adam Roorda. I'm asking my producer here. Let me see Semmelsberger. So in Semmelsberger's last fight, I think it was Carlton Minus he went against, and it was weird because there was a lot of opponent changes in that fight. And Carlton, I think, had met with a lot of hype as far as for his career early on. In his last two fights, he didn't look good. When you see a fight like that, and you see the fact that Semmelsberger just pretty much, I mean, not that he was like beating the crap out of Minus, but he did kind of make himself look like the plus side, and Minus absolutely looked like the minus side. And anyone that was cheering for Minus was watching a guy who kept on struggling to do anything. Now, when you see something like that, I'm sure your team, because with Glory MMA and James Krause, you know, there probably isn't any better a mind. But can James break that down and point out that he may be making this guy look bad, but you're 3 times as good a fighter as Minus? Or how does it work when you're seeing a fight with your opponent just completely like dominating a guy and making another guy look like crap, but you don't want to imagine that that's going to be you doing the same thing as Carlton Minus?
Yeah, so James Krause, he's I would say the best coach in the entire world. Fantastic. He's great at breaking down fights. Really good at like kind of creating game plans and stuff that works for you specifically, not just for like, the entire gym. And really for you yourself. Yeah, minus didn't really have the power to stand with Semmelsberger, and you can kind of see that in the fight when Minus hit him and didn't do much, and when Semmelsberger hit him, it obviously did. But I don't have that problem. I have a lot of power in both my hands uh, and kicks and takedown abilities. So I really think you look at it. I don't even think Minus in the UFC anymore. I think you went 2-0 or 2-0 and 0-2 in the UFC. So it's really easy to make that guy look bad because Semmelsberger is going to look good no matter what against a guy like that. But coming up against a guy like me who has, I want to say 3 times as many fights as Semmelsberger, it's going to be a lot different. The experience for me is definitely going to pay off, and it's going to showcase more what I can do in the cage than what
Absolutely. Quick question for you, Jason. I don't know if it's possible, but we're my producer says no, because we're having a little bit of interference with the Skype, which shows that maybe your signal isn't that good. Do you happen to know, is there any other room where you are that might have a better signal or anything? I don't want to inconvenience you or anything, but we are kind of popping in and out. And my producer says he can see that our signal strength is good since we're hardwired, but yours could be a little weak.
Let me try.
I really appreciate you, brother.
No worries.
Okay, so while you're doing that, I'll let the people know that we're feeling the same way as Jason. Semmelsberger looked great against Carlton Minus, and all respect to Minus, but it's just Minus kept having performance after performance that showed that maybe he wasn't at the UFC level. And okay, let's try this here, Jason. And that old saying, "There's levels to this game," is really true, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just there's definitely levels to this game, but there's also experience. You have to go. I took the long way to get here. I took a rough road to get here. I took tough fights and beat a lot of people. I don't think he's experienced. He's understanding. I don't think he'll understand like what that means until he's actually in there with me, and gets put through some of the things that I've been through and understand. When you gain a lot of experience from fights, and that's and I think that'll play a huge factor in the fight.
Absolutely. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, and I agree 100%. Are you a guy that looks at odds much, or do you know what the odds are in this one?
I only know because a couple people have told me. I got a couple friends that bet on fights. I heard. I guess I'm the favorite, but you know what? That doesn't mean shit to me.
Right.
Odds are people who are making numbers that aren't actually in the cage, so it doesn't really matter to me.
Let me ask you this, because you seem like a pretty honest and open guy. When you're fighting in an event that there are odds and people can bet, and now along with Las Vegas and native reservations, there's all kinds of online gaming. Do you ever have a cousin or a brother or someone come up and say, Jason, dude, is there any way you can guarantee me you'll win this fight so that I can put like my whole paycheck and my whole savings account and my girlfriend's savings account on this fight? Has that ever happened? I'd be curious to know.
First off, I've never been asked that question before.
Okay.
Second, no, I have not actually. No, that's interesting. I have not asked. Nobody's ever asked me that question. Nobody's ever asked me to do that. Nope.
And it's probably respectful, because it sounds like you probably have friends who have their heads on straight. It would be kind of a lame thing to do, right? But I will bet you that there's somewhere that some fighters have guys that possibly do that every time they fight. They're saying, dude, if you can just promise me, you'll win and like that. What would you do if a friend were to say that? Would you be pissed off, or what would your answer be?
No, I mean, to each their own. Like, if that's what you want to do, and that's fine. I'm a very open person. Nothing in the sport is guaranteed. The sport has a very small margin of error. But I can guarantee him that I trained my ass off for the fight, and I put everything I had into each day, and every practice was intentional. So, you can't guarantee it, but I'm gonna tell you the facts that I know that I have put in the work to win the fight.
Makes sense. And injuries, I know, are a big thing in this sport. A lot of people don't understand that even though you guys are in your 20s and 30s and you're in amazing shape and your bodies are fantastically strong, people don't realize. I do. I've trained martial arts from striking, Muay Thai, karate to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it is hard on the body. It is really hard, and so I know pretty much at the high level everyone's fighting with some kind of injury. But can you tell me, how often is it that that a UFC fighter will fight severely compromised? Because once in a while you'll see a performance from a good fighter that looks like you're scratching your head saying, was this like his identical twin brother who never trained that came in there? And then you realize that the guy had like a torn ACL. He had just twisted his ankle before, his shoulder was dislocated, and the hand on his other arm was broken. How often does something like that happen, that we're seeing someone who really is fighting like a tenth of their normal self, but they had to take the fight because they needed the money, and they promised a lot of people, you know, managers, trainers, and people would get paid, and they had to take it?
You're not getting it very often. A serious injury, I think most fighters.
Gotcha. You're getting, you kind of got silence there again. So most fighters, if it was a serious injury, you're saying they will pull out.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a torn ACL, you kind of understand that you're not going to be your best performance in the UFC. You have to come in at the top of your level. I mean, there's guys like I fought with a popped rib before, like 3 weeks before my last fight. I popped a rib, but those are those nagging injuries. You do this game long enough, like you said, you've done all the sports. You know you're going to have little injuries. You're going to be beat up. By the end of the fight, take a rest day and let my body heal up a little bit.
Makes sense. Now, how about going into fights? Obviously, anyone can win. The other guy's got 2 arms and 2 legs, just like you. But do fighters at this level ever go into fights overconfident? Like, do you ever hear guys in a dressing room saying, man, this is going to be light work, I'm going to beat this dude, I'm going to be out of there within like 2 minutes and chilling and having a beer, you know, backstage? Is there sometimes mindsets like that going in? I imagine not often, but do you ever hear guys like that in a dressing room, or teammates, or just guys who you're around before a fight?
Yeah, none of my teammates, but you know, I think a lot of guys have that self-confidence, which is, you have to have that in the sport. You have to have confidence in the sport. And if you don't, then you're obviously you're in the wrong business. But I think everybody who says that still understands the risk factor, and they still understand the respect that you have to have for your opponent. And if you don't, then, you know, I think those people that take losses and then they don't understand why they lost, and they kind of go off into a shell. But in terms of people just saying this is easy work, I don't think so, especially not at this level. You can't just get to the UFC and be like, hey, this is going to be easy work.
Yeah, I agree. You know, it reminds me of a funny thing that happened many years ago. I was in my 20s, and I was hanging out with some buddies, and they had a buddy of theirs from out of town staying with them, and he was a big guy. He was like maybe 220 pounds or so, but he wasn't really a guy that was working out much. And he woke up and got out of bed, and he saw that they had put in a bench press in the bedroom. And he got right up with sleep in his eyes, and he looks at the bench press, and it had only like maybe 150 pounds loaded on it, right? And so he's like 220, and he got up and he looked at the bench press, and he's like, oh, what is this? Look at this. And I remember my buddy said, dude, you just got out of bed and you don't even work out. Don't really, I wouldn't do that. And he goes, oh, he got under the bench press and lifted it up, and he's going like, making these noises like, what the hell? And then it comes right down and hits him in the head. You know, blood's coming out of his head, and you know, we go and help him out, and he's all right. But it's like, that was one of the funniest things. He was like acting like this was like a joke, like he was, you know, like, oh, what is this? He's gonna bench press it, like, you know, when it comes down and it hits him in the head. So yeah, you don't want to be so overconfident when you're not prepared. But yeah, I do understand in the UFC you are prepared, and you do want to be confident. Speaking of that, who's helped prepared you for this camp? And before you answer that, Is there ever is that ever a secret? Like if you were trying to like really improve, your jits for Semmelsberger, is there ever a chance that like you wouldn't want to share that you've been working with a black belt in your camp because Semmelsberger might be watching this, or how do fighters look at that, you think?
No, man. I'll always share who I train with. Always share what I'm doing. Like, I don't care. That's not gonna, like, there's not gonna be no surprise factor in the fight. Like, you know what I'm gonna do. You know what's coming. You know what I'm capable of. You know how it's gonna come at you. So I got no problem sharing what I do. I spend a lot of time grappling with Julian Marquez, striking with Julian Marquez for his fight with Maki Vitola a couple weeks ago. So I used to train with bigger guys like him. I've also spent a lot of time with Grant Dawson, who's a lightweight, but that kid's a monster at 145 and 150, and he is strong as shit. So I definitely pushed myself with those two guys in this training camp. Just a lot of work put in with them too.
Absolutely, and it's great for you as a welterweight to have Julian at middleweight, and then to have Grant at lightweight. It's really kind of perfect and like that. And you got the speed on the one side and the strength. That performance out of Julian was good. We had Julian on our show about 9 months ago, and he had some time off coming into that fight, and I remember breaking it down with a couple of our team members, and I'm like, man, I sure hope Julian wins, because I do like to cheer for the people that come on our show. At some point, over 4 years, we've had so many UFC contenders on our show. Inevitably, it turns out that guys on our show are fighting each other, and then we can't cheer for anybody, kind of like the coach. But basically, we didn't know Pitola. We never talked to him. Julian was a great guy, and so I remember breaking it down, thinking, man, Julian, I think hadn't fought for 2.5 years or something, and right,
31 months.
Yeah, it was crazy, almost 3 years. But he was like the bigger man and more skillful. On the flip side of it, Pitolo had been fighting regularly, but he had some losses, but his back was against the wall. So we knew that was going to be a good fight, because Pitolo, I know, felt like he really needed that win, and he fought like he did. But Julian just kept coming, and then at the end, what did he finish that with? What, a guillotine from the guard or a Peruvian necktie or something? Do you remember?
Yeah, so movie work on it goes guillotine to an anaconda.
Right.
It's that Julian put me in probably 1,000 times, and then drilling over and over again. So it was something I was familiar with, and I knew once he got to it, he was going to hit it, because like I said, I've been in 1,000 times, and he's good at it. So yeah, he hit that, and it was a tough fight for him. It really kind of showcased that Pitola looked good, man. Like, he pressed him a lot against the cage, did exactly what we were gonna do to Pitola.
Yeah,
exactly what we were gonna do to him, and then Julian, man, that kid got heart, and he's very entertaining. So he came to.
Without a doubt, absolutely good dude. And I'll tell you, the brain trust over there, James Krause, man, he's a sharp guy, and I can't wait to see him fight again, man. I thought he won the fight against, I think it was Trevin Giles or something. Was that James' last fight, that short notice fight against Giles, or did he fight since then?
No, he's fought since then. Fought in Brazil. Can't remember. He's fought since then, but yeah, I definitely won the fight too. I think the judge made a shitty decision.
Yeah.
Especially on 24 hours notice. The man's a guy.
Yeah. Without a doubt, he's incredible, and he's able to coach and train. And so, I would imagine whenever he retires, it's clear he's going to be able to morph himself into a head coach. Do you ever get a feeling how many more years do you think he'll want to fight? Do you think, like, as time goes by, does he start thinking more and more how much he'd rather have time to devote to all you guys, or does he love the fighting just as much as the coaching?
No, his goal is to be the best head coach in the and that's his main fighting for him. He loves fighting, but it's not about. He doesn't fight for money either. He loves fighting. Like, right now, we have like 6 weeks of just guys in the UFC, and we have 3 weeks after that. So it's a long trip for him. So you probably won't see him in the ring or octagon for a while. But his main goal is just to train world champion. That's all he wants to do. He wants to be the best in the world. And honestly, I believe he is. but he's a good.
Yeah, he's definitely up there, you know, with the best for sure. Well, we got about 2 minutes left with you, Jason. I know you guys got Megan Anderson going. I'm one of the few people that feels that she has a shot. I know you do as well, I'm sure, and as does James Krause. Megan was on our show in the first few months we were on in 2017. I think she was on with us in June of 2017. And we had a different format then. We were doing 1 hour interviews, and then we started to realize people's attention span watching isn't that good. But she was a character. She had confidence, and I honestly think she can make it happen here, and just with her length and her speed. And I can't wait to see it. I know you guys will be cheering for her, and you know, and support and believe in her. And being her size, she can train with men. She's not extremely heavy, but can you guys put in some time with Megan, being that she's, you know, 145, probably walking around at 160 or something?
Yeah, I mean, she's a big girl. She thinks she walks like 160 sometimes. But yeah, she definitely trains with a lot of men. She trains with Mike Breeden a lot. She's put in a lot of work with Mike Breeden, one of our industry. Definitely has a chance. She creates a lot of problems for Amanda Nunes with her length and with her power. A lot of people don't understand that she's so good at controlling range, controlling distance, and throwing knees. And I don't think people like give her as much credit as she deserves. And she's strong. I mean, she's a lot bigger than I am. She stands next to me and she towers over me. So yeah, she hits hard. She has a lot of power, and she definitely is. I honestly think she could shock the world right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think she's going to do well. Can't wait to see it. Those long legs and long limbs coming at the champ, I think, might be a different look than Nunes has ever seen. Well, what's the best social media place for people to support you?
Yeah, usually on Instagram, _the Gorilla. I'm on Facebook, Jason Witt. I think I'm on Twitter as Jason Witt MMA. Not on there as much, but Instagram is probably the best place to get.
Excellent. Well, we really appreciate it, man. We'll be cheering for you. Always love the guys from Glory MMA. Great team. We've had James on our show several times, and we really appreciate you coming on and talking to us here at the MMA Power Hour.
Nice, man. I appreciate having me on.
You're very welcome. Look forward to you getting that W, man. You take care.
Appreciate it. Take care.
You got it. Thanks. And that was Jason Witt. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, the Skype connection that he had just wasn't that great, and obviously that wouldn't be his choice or any fault of his. It just is what it is, and there's nothing.
It is what it is, and
there's just nothing that can be done. You know,
I caught most of what he said there, though. So
yeah, good dude, and I believe in him. And is he the slight favorite? I thought they had him as a slight dog. Let's see if he can.
I think he is a slight favorite. I was just looking at it a second ago.
13th. Where is it?
Right here.
No, he's a slight dog.
He is a slight dog.
He's a slight dog. Yeah, they've got Semelsberger, a little bit of a ferret. So I honestly think that that Witt, with 3 times the experience coming out of that great team, Glory MMA, was Zach Cummings and James Krause. And,
yeah, with that team, I think he's gonna take it.
Yeah, I got Witt, Vanilla Gorilla, man, all the way. Really good dude.
Now, speaking of dogs, I'm just gonna throw my picks in now. While we have a chance for this week, I am going to go ahead and do a dog pick with Megan Anderson for a finish, actually.
Wow.
I'm going to go for a 4th round finish. If she can make it that long, I think she actually has the chance to really pull it off here. Megan is known for having some good cardio, great cardio. Yeah. So I think being able to take it into the deep rounds, I think she has an extreme chance there. Somebody's posted something. I don't even know what it says there, but and then we would be looking at I'm going to take Drew Dober over Islam Makhachev, and then also let's just go through that list there. I'm going to have to go with some tough ones in this one on this card this weekend. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and go with Jan on this as well.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
So those are my 3 dog picks for the week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, those are pretty good picks. I got to say that Megan would be a huge dog coming in, and I think that she does have a chance. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with those. But yeah, Drew Dober also I think has a really good chance. And so yeah. Anyway, you guys. So for you guys going and making troll comments, my bet is that you guys are a lot more effeminated than me. So take that and stuff it. jerks. Love you,
It's
baby.
what it is. We love the trolls, whatever they want to say, whatever.
We gotta love the trolls. Yeah, while you guys are eating your nachos and shit, how many years have you guys trained jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, and karate or wrestling? Tell me that, effeminated jerks. Anyway, thank you for coming, though. I love you. Okay, so we have a next segment coming up. Whenever
absolutely,
you're ready.
we have our next segment coming up, guys. This was pre-recorded with Frank Grillo here. I hope you guys enjoy it. We'll be right back after that segment, and Francesca as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am extremely excited to have this next guest on the show. Most fight fans know him from Captain America, The Purge, Fight World, which was absolutely amazing, Warrior, and basically the Netflix series Kingdom is just absolutely one of my personal favorites, and I know it's yours. So many amazing projects going on, accomplished, and coming up for this man. We're so happy to have him with us. I'd like to welcome Mr. Frank Grillo to the show. Welcome to the show, Frank.
Oh, thanks, brother. Boy, that was a great introduction. I wish my parents were alive to hear that.
I hear you. I hear you. We're the same. We're both orphans. Both of mine are gone as well. Right? I remember when an older friend of mine mentioned that to me like 20 years ago, and he said, I'm an orphan now. And I said, an orphan? And then I thought about it. I said, yeah, that's what you and me are now. But hey, God bless them. They're watching over. You're doing great work and so much great stuff, man. I know that you've got some amazing projects coming up, but the one that's going to be coming up soonest, I believe, on March 5th via Hulu is called Boss Level. And from what I gather and from what I've heard from the few people that have seen the screener, is it's kind of a cross between Deadpool and Groundhog's Day. Let's say Deadpool meets Groundhog's Day. What do you think of that evaluation?
I mean, that's flattering. You know, if we could live up to that, that would be. If we could live up to half of that, it would be awesome. But yeah, that's kind of the sweet spot right there. You know, it's an homage to 80s R-rated kind of over-the-top action with a bunch of comedy in there. And yeah, Joe Carnahan, my partner who wrote and directed it, is kind of a master in this world, and I think he did a pretty good job.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. What was it like working with Mel Gibson and Naomi Watts?
Oh, you know, it's always a treat to work with established, well-respected actors. But when you get like a Mel Gibson, who's just an icon, you know, I was nervous at first because you never know. Like, I've worked with some big boys like that, but Mel was an absolute dream to work with. He was curious and giving, and he was kind of amazed at how Joe and I were making this big action movie in 27 days. So there was always this, you know, he always was like wide-eyed about it, and we found that to be funny because look, he made Braveheart, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But he was great. He's become a great friend. We're actually trying to mount another film with Mel and I and Joe directing too. We had such a great experience with him.
Absolutely.
And Naomi too. You know, Naomi comes with you know, a body of work that is, you know, incredibly well respected. So, you know, we were punching a little bit of above our weight with all these people, and they're all great. You know, they all delivered.
Absolutely. I really liked how when Mel was in that first scene, he had his back to the camera, and so we didn't know who he was. And I think so many of us were thinking, I recognize that voice. Who is that, right? And then when he just turned around at the end of the conversation, that was awesome. Super dramatic moment. I love that.
Yeah, great. It was great.
Lots of great moments. Well, you got other projects going as well, and I think it stated that the beginning of this year that you had a half a dozen projects going. Anything notable you want to touch on here?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've had a couple movies drop in the past 2 weeks. Body Brokers was the other one. I had No Man's Land a few weeks before that. You know what? Because of COVID, you know, these film releases got bottlenecked, and it just made it seem like I was like the busiest guy in the world. And, you know, it was basically happenstance that everything just kind of just batted up against each other. And, you know, we've got a bunch coming out after Boss Level. I have a little bit of a quiet time, and then I have another movie with Naomi coming out, And then I have a Hitman's Bodyguard 2 coming out. Another movie with Josh Hartnett, and so I think by June, pretty much everybody will be disgusted with me.
I love it, absolutely. I think people are going to be extremely happy, and you're treating your fans to the rewards they need after such a difficult year in 2020, and I know we all appreciate it.
Oh man, and look, you know, that's what Boss Level. It's a great segue into why I think Boss Level, you know, is right for the time. It's a bunch of silliness. It's 90 minutes of like, let me sit down and forget about everything and laugh at some big dumb jokes and to have some fun. And that's what we all need. You're right. That's what we all need.
Absolutely true. One thing I know is that in every dramatic movie, I think there are always moments of comedy. I forget where I heard it, but someone told me that even the actors that play the best and most sinister evil villains always find some moments of humor in their performance, right? And so I think that is really important, and I like that feel that you had in the beginning of this guy says, I'm getting killed every day, you know, whatever, you know, however many times that is, and I like that lightheartedness. I think that's something that we need nowadays.
Yeah, it's a great point, actually, is that you should be able to find levity, you know, even in the most dour situations. And you know, that's if we do our jobs right, you know, you find funny, even in the highly dramatic movies, you know, you should be able to find some moments of levity. So it's just not one straight miserable run right to the end. But, you know, look, I've read reviews of myself where, you know, people say, oh, it's interesting to see, you know, Frank Grillo be funny. You know, he doesn't have much personality in his roles. And like, I read some of the things I read are real. I'm like, oh, wow, okay, no personality. And so it's interesting. It's interesting that, you know, it's a lesson for me, too, to constantly seek out some of the levity that maybe I'm missing in some of my other movies.
Without a doubt. And, you know, you never know what critics are going to say. I remember, as I'm sure you probably do, that there was a prominent critic that absolutely panned Dustin Hoffman's performance in Rain Man. And and you think to yourself, what rock did this guy crawl out from under to decide that that performance was crappy, you know? But who knows?
No, it's true. You know, a lot of my partner says it often. He says, you know, I don't have a problem with critics. I have a problem with lazy critics. Yeah. You know, who just, you know, they'll take a shot at me, you know, for not being the Mel Gibson, you know, or they'll take a shot at Mel for whatever he might have done in his past, and why should he get a break again? You know, it's like it all gets very personal, and it has very little to do with the critique of the film. So yeah, I try not to take the great ones too much to heart, and the same with the bad ones, you know.
Without a doubt. I know you and I grew up watching Siskel and Ebert. Would have been fun if they were alive to review your film, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And, you know, those guys get it. Those guys understood film history. They understood film structure. They were writers in their own. They were really smart writers in their own right. They were part of the judicious when it came to critiquing film. So again, from my partner's mouth, Joe Carnahan, he would say, look, I would get some really bad reviews from really great critics, and I appreciated it because it was written well.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So if they're true critics and they have a point of view and they write a really good critique, you can't help it like saying, okay, that's your you know, perspective, and I appreciate it.
Yep.
It's like we so many of these guys who've got a computer and somehow they've gotten approved by Rotten Tomatoes, and you read it and you're like, shut up.
Yep. Their review is Rotten Tomatoes, pretty much. Absolutely, I'm with you. Well, let's get into some fight talk here. Let me start actually going back in time to Fight World. Love that, but you know, we actually have had the host of two other shows from the 90s, that late 90s, I think it was, that were similar. We had the host of Vision Quest, I think it was, right? We had with Jimmy Smith. We had Jimmy on several times. And then we had Jason Chambers from Human Weapon. And was Fight World influenced at all by those two, or were you aware of those two shows at the time?
I was aware of Jimmy's show, and I was aware of both of them, more of Jimmy's show, but they had zero influence. Believe it or not, the major influence on Fight World was Anthony Bourdain.
Interesting. How so?
Yeah. I have been such a huge admirer and fan of Bourdain, of how he took basically, which was a pseudo travel / food show, and created this cultural phenomenon. And I thought, I was in China making a movie, and I got this light bulb moment. I went, I think I could pull off what Bourdain is doing, but instead of the food culture, I could embed myself in fight culture, because I'm such a fan of fighters and why they fight. And Netflix, to their credit, they bought it in the room, and I was off to the races.
Absolutely. Great show. Interesting about Bourdain, I think in the last couple of years of his life, he decided to really embrace Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And if you remember, I don't know what belt level it was at, maybe purple or something, but he competed in a gi at 60 years old, and I think won the tournament. That was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, he started getting into jiu-jitsu because his first wife was heavily into it, and she competed. And he got into it and then got hooked.
Yeah.
And funny enough, the episode that we shot in Brazil, we had to shelf because one of the main storylines, the dude we were following did some terrible things to his wife. And we just couldn't promote the show because he was such a big part of it, and have somebody who was involved in that level of domestic abuse.
Yeah.
And we had to, my favorite episode, because, I'm jiu-jitsu for 15 years, we had to put on the shelf, but we were going to return, if we were going to do another season, go back to Brazil, and I was going to approach Bourdain to see if he wanted to do like a joint show. And then unfortunately it passed away. So, I continue to watch his shows. I just think what he did in that world kind of changed, what docuseries were.
Absolutely. And, at first I used to watch with a girlfriend. She liked the Food Network. And at first I thought he was just kind of a cocky bastard. But as I started to watch, I saw, he really did care about what he was doing. He loved food and the atmosphere of getting people together and sharing good conversation and just, making it a really important time of the day. And so I definitely did get to like him. And then at 60 years old, to go out and get a 6-pack of abs, it's amazing. I know that's go ahead.
He was shredded. He was shredded. And you'll notice at the time when he started to get into jiu-jitsu, the way he presented his shows was much different. He got involved in fight culture. He was always kind of searching it out. And the way his whole persona kind of changed, because he became much more chill and like a fighter, much more respectful, much less cocky.
Right.
And I think jiu-jitsu had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I would think so too. And God bless him in heaven. Speaking about the shape he's in, man, for a Gen X guy, you're in better shape than 99% of people half your age. Can you give any secrets to guys over 40, what we can do when the metabolism starts slowing down a bit and all of a sudden you can't enjoy as much stuff and the workouts don't do as much like they used to? What can guys do to try to, maybe if not get into the shape you're in, but at least, start to get into good shape instead of deciding that their days of having a good body are over?
Yeah, by the way, that's a fallacy. That's a misnomer that once you get to 40, life is over, and the physicality wise. And, certainly your testosterone levels drop, but what you need to do to increase your testosterone levels is do strength training, is to, lift some heavy weights, your squats, your deadlifts, and your chest. You want to encourage your testosterone to jump back up again. You got to live a disciplined life, man. I try to eat. I'm a paleo dude, so I try to maintain that 90% of the time. And I just recently tried to kind of drink a little bit less. I'm a big wine drinker, and that's no secret. And I've tried to kind of decrease the frequency of which I drink. But it's about discipline. It's about, living that lifestyle. And, I wake up every day. I go to the gym. I box every single day for a couple of hours. I do my weights 3 or 4 times a week. And that's it. If you want to look and feel a certain way, you have to be disciplined.
Absolutely. Are you big into the high amounts of protein or not so much? Because that's something that's been in debate that a lot of people are wondering about. It used to be that they were saying 1 gram per pound, and the bigger guys were doing 2 grams per pound, and now they're saying that 0.5 gram per pound is okay. You have any thoughts on that?
I don't get into the science of it all. I mean, I know what works for me. I understand my body so well. I started wrestling when I was 7.
Mm-hmm.
I started cutting weight when I was 10. And so I learned what, over the years, what works for my body. And for me, I eat mostly protein and fat. My carbs come from vegetables, green leafy vegetables and sweet potatoes. I stay away from most other things, but I don't monitor. My theory, my mission statement when it comes to food is I basically try to eat 1 main meal a day,
mm-hmm.
and I'll do a little bit of snacking on other things throughout the day. But it's really 1 meal a day. I try to limit how much I eat.
Makes sense. Well, we've got about 9 or 10 minutes left with you. Let's jump into MMA.
Okay.
So we were talking before, and the fans of my show know that I was there starting to do a little bit of training, although I kind of broke it up for years after. I mainly had a friend who was training with the Gracies before the UFC, and I had a copy of the press kit, and I learned that you were one of those people, although I didn't know you. You were actually training with Rickson prior to the first UFC. Tell me about that, and tell me about what your thoughts were when they told you, and I'm sure you saw that same press kit saying that we got an event here. What was it like with Rickson back in those days, and what was your thoughts when the first UFC was about to happen?
Yeah, we were training up on Pico with Rickson's academy. I mean, I had, through a wrestling buddy from Oklahoma, he said, "Man, you got to check this out. This, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's like wrestling, only you fight on your back."
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I started. And then, Rickson was doing Vale Tudos at the time. In fact, when he went to do the Vale Tudo, that is the choke documentary.
Yep.
I'm in the background. When he's leaving, I'm in the background.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man. And so he got offered UFC 1, but because the Gracies were involved in creating the UFC.
Yes.
And but he didn't consider it to be. It was a little cheesy.
Yeah.
As far as he was concerned. So he went off to do the Vale Tudos, and they picked Royce Gracie because he was kind of, by definition, what jiu-jitsu was about. It was the smaller, weaker guy fighting the bigger guy.
Right.
And so Royce came through to our academy a couple times and trained with the black belts, Rickson's black belts.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we would put aluminum foil on the windows so nobody could come and watch.
Wow.
And then, lo and behold, Royce went to fight in this thing called UFC, and he won.
Yeah.
He won the first 2, I think. He won 1 and 2.
And 1, 2, and 4. And
4.
And then number 3 was unusual because he won his fight against Chemo Leopoldo, who was completely jacked to the gills on steroids and probably outweighed Royce by nearly 100 pounds. And Chemo had learned a little bit of takedown defense and a little bit of jiu-jitsu and was able to defend himself long enough. And Royce ended up beating him, but he took a beating. I wouldn't be surprised if every muscle he had was sprained or strained and broken bones. And then they came out and then threw the towel in. And then that's when they brought in the police officer Steve Jenham, an alternate who had not had to fight any alternate match. He was there resting the whole time, and they brought him in. They brought him in against Harold Howard, the Canadian. And
I knew Harold. Yep.
You did. He was a character, man. I still remember that great promo, that scar on his face, and he's got the sunglasses on, and he says, "We have a saying." He says, "Hi, I'm Harold Clarence Howard. We have a saying here in Canada. If you're coming on," and then he takes off his sunglasses and says, "Come on."
Right. I remember. Wow, man, I'm so old.
Yeah, I'm with you. Believe me, we're right there. But that was a trip. Yeah. and then Steve Jenham winning that. And then remember they would have the Ultimates where they have like the best guys, or some of the best guys. They had Ultimate 95 and Ultimate 96. Those are some great ones. Those tournaments were amazing, man. I mean,
they were amazing, and they were true mixed martial arts tournaments. You know, now what we have in MMA is a homogenized version of that, in the sense that everybody trains in all aspects of martial arts. And
right.
That's kind of not what MMA was. You know, that's why the Vale Tudos were so cool. But now, look, I remember when nobody knew how to defend against jiu-jitsu for a while. There were a couple of years jiu-jitsu swept. And I was watching UFC. I'm really good friends with Higan Machado.
Nice.
And he's always at my house. Mm-hmm. And we were watching his buddy who had won. He was from Brazil. I forget his name. He fought 2 weeks ago. He won at Abu Dhabi 7 times.
Wow.
He was a 7th Abu Dhabi champion. But he came to fight at the UFC, and he fought a dude who looked like he was like way out of shape, like a skinny guy.
Yep.
And he tapped the guy. The guy got hit a couple of times. My friend Higan's buddy took a couple of shots because all he knew was jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
He took a couple of shots. He got rocked. The guy tapped him out.
Oh,
he choked him out.
Oh, wow.
So there it goes to show you the evolution of I mean, jiu-jitsu's dangerous, but everybody knows jiu-jitsu.
That's it. I mean, that's really
everybody.
it. And the Gracies, got to be remembered for that, because, it really is, were it not for them, who knows what we'd have. We wouldn't have the Vale Tudo, and we wouldn't have what we have now. Speaking about what we have now, I know you're busy filming, but are you aware of the big card we have coming this Saturday?
What do we have said? No, I'm not, because I'm actually been doing press for 2 weeks.
Gotcha.
So I've been underwater. What do we have?
So this is one of the biggest cards in a while. UFC 259, 3 title fights, and I wanted to get your quick opinion on them if I could. Let's now the bigger ones I know Israel Adesanya, the last style bender. He's going up in weight to face the champion who took John Jones's title after John Jones vacated the title. That's the man from Poland, 37-year-old Jan Blachowicz. And so, Israel Adesanya is coming up. He made a statement the other day that even though it's going to be a 205 limit, that he might just weigh 193 pounds. I'm doubting that that's the truth. If it is, then it really might be almost like an old school matchup. But what do you think? Do you think Izzy, just with his skill, can go up 20 pounds in weight and be the one of the few double champs that we've ever had and beat Jan Blachowicz?
He could. You're talking about he's a bit old.
Blachowicz
Blachowicz. And I love Israel. I mean, he's a badass. I think the whole 193 thing is nonsense. I think he walks around that guy at about 212.
I agree.
So I think he's a monster. He's a badass. He's a great fighter. He's both striking and on the ground. So I got to go with Israel. I love Israel, so I got to go that way.
He's amazing. How about the women? Amanda Nunes, the women's GOAT, as it were, and double champ. She's going up against the 6-footer from Australia, Megan Anderson. Big underdog in that fight. You think the Aussie has a chance because of her height and length?
I don't. I think Nunes is too skilled. She's just way too skilled. I think she's one of the best fighters, period, that's out there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. The other one I'm not sure if you're familiar with. Not as many people follow the smaller guys, but you have the Russian champ Petr Yan against Aljamain Sterling from the East Coast. I know you're an East Coast guy. Yeah, you're familiar enough with them to pick that one? Yan has the title and Sterling's challenging.
Yeah, I think Jan wins. Sterling's he's a tough kid. Very tough kid, but I don't think he wins. I don't think he beats him.
Absolutely. 2 minutes left, I think we have with you. Growing up, were you watching all the combat sports that were on? I remember the first things that were on TV was full contact karate. I think they called that full contact. They called it full force karate or something like that. Yeah. And then it was PKA. Were you watching that? And then sometimes
I absolutely did. I absolutely watched PKA, and I back when Betamax was out.
Yes, yes.
You know, the giant beta films. I remember getting all kinds of bootlegs from Dutch kickboxing and Muay Thai fights. You know, I actually used to get later on Bokau, who was one of the greatest Muay Thai fighters out of Bangkok.
Right.
I used to get bootleg tapes of Bokau's fights, and then later when I went to do Fight World, I went and got to train with him.
Oh, that's amazing. That must have been a treat.
And you know, he's at the end of his career now, but I remember getting fights of this guy when he was like 15 years old, and he was a killer then. He was like Canelo and Tyson, who at 15 were beating up men.
Absolutely, absolutely, just an amazing talent. Do you have any all-time favorites in the world of MMA?
You know, I love Hendo. I love Dan Henderson. I just always loved him. I loved when he was fighting. I loved Anderson Silva. I love Randy Couture, who I've become friends with.
Yep.
Since I loved the sheer toughness, and I got to experience his strength in Matt Hughes.
Yep.
And, you know, I love those guys, you know, and I got to be friends with them. I worked with Matt on Kingdom. I became friends with George St. Pierre, who I thought was maybe one of the greatest athletes I've ever seen.
Yes.
I went and trained at Jackson's when he was training for a fight, and also a young John Jones. I was there watching John Jones come up. And, you know, when you're around 25 world champions, and then there's one guy who makes those guys look okay.
Yep.
You know, like he makes the world champions look like, okay, they're pretty good fighters. And that was John Jones.
Right.
You know, phenoms.
Absolutely. They're amazing. Do you think GSP will come back for that final fight with Khabib Nurmagomedov or anyone else? That would be an amazing dream fight.
Well, I'll let you know a little secret. He might beat me up if he hears this. But I just finished a movie with Jerry Butler, and we had our last week was in New Mexico. So I went down to Jackson's. Mm-hmm. Actually, Coach came and spent the night on the set. But before that, I went to Jackson's, and we were talking about George. And he was giving me a wink that there's a good possibility. And he's not happy about it, Greg. He doesn't like when these guys come back at this point. But he was like, I think it might. It's gurgling. It might happen.
That would be amazing. I appreciate that little hint of optimism about that, because that would be so tremendous. And I would love to see it. George is such a phenom, having grown up in Canada, not been a wrestler, and then essentially he beats the very best wrestlers out there. And
I think you know, from what I know, you know, George wasn't a wrestler. And this is the kind of athlete he was. And then I think that the Canadian national team asked him to wrestle for them, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right. He caught on so quickly, and he was already like 18, 19, 20, even older, I think, when he started to learn it. And it's just, you know, it's just a testament to what kind of an athlete he was. It's just, you know.
Go ahead. I'll tell you one more quick story. When I was down at Jackson Wink, he was training with an amazing Muay Thai coach, Phil Nurse, out of New York City.
Absolutely.
Phil is a phenomenal coach and a phenomenal Muay Thai fighter. And it was when he was teaching George, it was literally the last day George was training before the fight. He was teaching George that a lead Superman jab, right?
Right.
And he just kept training. So it was a combination of kicks into a lead jab Superman punch.
Wow.
George won the fight with that punch.
Wow. Yeah, he learned it that day. Yeah,
that's how amazing of an athlete he is.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, in martial arts, we both know how rare that is. Sometimes it can take years to get something down, and he got it in a day. Well, that's amazing. Man, I really appreciate you sharing all your great insight, Frank. Want to let everyone know to look out for Boss Level coming up day after tomorrow on Hulu. Also, No Man's Land, Body Brokers, War Party. Are all of those still coming, or have any of those been canceled? I think they're all still coming.
Those movies are out right now. War Party's our production company.
Okay.
That
right.
made Boss Level. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so much great stuff, man. And I'm so happy to see Generation X still kicking ass as the best action stars out there in 2021, man. Keep it up. You're an inspiration. And I really want to thank you so much, Frank Grillo, for joining us here in the MMA Power Hour.
Thank you so much, brother.
My pleasure. Take care.
Hey guys, it's Francesca Dominique, and we are back again this week on MMA Power Hour for another betting and fight odds segment. We are going to be looking at UFC 259, Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz, and we actually have two other title fights as well, Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson, and Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. So it's going to be a great weekend of fights. This whole card is stacked. I am so excited, but let's just get right into it. So we're going to be looking at three matchups here. We're going to be starting with the featured prelim, Dominic Cruz versus Casey Kenny, and then we're going to move our way up to two out of the three title fights. We're going to be looking at Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling and Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson. Okay, so starting with Dominic Cruz versus Casey Kenny. Casey Kenny's coming in here on a 3-fight win streak. On the other side, Dominic Cruz is coming in on a 2-fight skid. Given that those two fights were championship bouts, one of them being a decision loss to Cody Garbrandt, that was a hell of a performance by Cody Garbrandt. And then the most recent outing in 2020 versus Henry Cejudo with a round 2 stoppage, that was... Dominic Cruz was not too happy with Keith Peterson there, but, whatever, more memes for us. But Dominic Cruz, 22-3. So 2 of those 3 losses have come in the last few years, and previously before that, it was to Uriah Faber. That was his only loss for the longest time. So coming in here, I think this is a huge test for Casey Kenny, even though he comes in as a slight favorite. A lot of places have him at -130, -135. I like the value on Dominic Cruz, putting him in a parlay, even if he's like +115, +110. Dude, his experience, his speed, his footwork, none of it has left him. His IQ, none of it has left him. And I do get a little bit worried about Casey Kenny's cardio, because he has such high output. Oh my goodness, that Nathaniel Wood fight was so crazy. Like, I don't know, I'm a huge fan of Nathaniel Wood, and I was really impressed with Casey Kenny. Even though it was a close fight, he still pulled it off. And he performed really well. But this is his first real test, as far as someone with the IQ, with the footwork. There's nobody in the 135-pound division that has the movement like Dominic Cruz. So I think for Casey Kenny, he's going to have to answer those questions. And for Dominic Cruz, obviously, he's going to have to answer some questions of his own, being 35 years old. And that, that whole debacle or whatever. And it was right after like a head clash. There's a lot of stuff that was going on. So it was like, the fact that Keith Peterson stopped it, he was taking a lot of unanswered shots, but he was viable. He was looking to get to his feet. And, that's really what you want from a dude that's older. You want to see if their speed's intact, and you want to see how durable they are. And to be honest, Dominic Cruz doesn't get hit that much. So I think as far as timing, I think this is a very good matchup. As far as timing and win or loss, I think Casey Kenny is going to be a more valuable fighter after sharing the octagon with Dominic Cruz. But I do lean Dominic Cruz, seeing the value on there, even if it's +115, like I said, +110. It's not a huge underdog, but it is an underdog. So I am going to be putting him in my parlay, and we're going to go ahead and move on to Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. So here we have two guys ranked number 1, number 2. Obviously, Petr Yan's champ after defeating Jose Aldo in his last outing in the 5th round. but fairly young guys. I mean, Piotr is 28 years old, Aljamain Sterling 31, well within their primes. And I think stylistically, this is a really interesting matchup because you have, you know, on one side, Piotr Jan, no fat on his game. He does what he does so well, and excellent footwork. He has that kind of, not necessarily the Russian like stiffness like in his boxing, but he definitely prefers the boxing range. And being a switch hitter, he tends to come through really well with his punches. So he's always throwing power punches, and especially if he can get you in range, he covers so much ground. Like, he will catch you eventually if you aren't able to push him back and you aren't able to make him pay. But the fact that he comes through as he throws punches, it's not like he's just running forward, right? Which makes it more likely to run onto somebody's punches. He's throwing as he's covering ground, and he stays on top of his feet very well. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see Sterling deal with. You know, Sterling, his style has a lot more flair, a lot more flash. I feel like stylistically, like I said earlier, like, it's going to come down to the styles. Now, Aljamain Sterling does have the wrestling, he does have the range, and he utilizes a piece of his game that Piotr Jan was having some trouble with Jose Aldo, and that's the kicking game. Because he likes that boxing range, he doesn't really, you know, throw kicks himself, and he doesn't really address kicks. Like, we've seen obviously the low calf kick come into play here for a lot of fighters' game plans, but you know, he either gets out of the way or he just takes it, and he's so heavy on that front leg that might be a way to start chopping, start changing the game plan mentally for Piotr Jan on Sterling's side of things. But you know, Sterling riding a 5-fight win streak coming into this bout. His last loss came against Marlon Rise. And then on the other side for Piotr Jan, 10-fight win streak, and his last loss was a split decision loss that he avenged 2 fights later. So you're like, I feel like now they're pretty even. And then same as far as experience, I'd say kind of similar there. Aljamain Sterling coming in at 19-3, and Piotr Jan coming in at 15-1. To be honest, I really like this matchup. Like, stylistically, I think it's going to be really fun, and the odds makers pretty much have it the same, anywhere from -110 to -120 for both sides. So they're seeing the evenness in this matchup. But I am slightly leaning in the Piotr Jan direction. I like his style. He does give people quite a tough time with his just grind type of approach. I think Aljamain Sterling's way to win here is to use his kicking game and to keep that range, because Piotr Jan, when he is stepping out of the pocket, he tends to slip really hard one way or the other. So I mean, that could be one thing where Sterling kind of is able to guide him and to slip him onto one of his kicks coming out or coming forward. I'm just really excited for this matchup. It'll be interesting to see, you know, the 5-round fight here. And when there's a belt on the line, you know, that's always a good mental test to see a fighter go through, is to see, you know, how they're able to deal with that pressure. But here I do lean Piotr Jan to get it done by any method, but I'm going to be going ahead and adding him to the parlay here. So, last but not least, the co-main event, Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson. Amanda Nunes comes in here at 20-4, and Megan comes in at 10-4. Now, this is interesting, although the odds makers, it's like wild right now. Okay, it's like minus 1,000, give or take, on Amanda Nunes' side, and then I believe it's like closer to plus 400. Or plus 700, plus 675 on Megan Anderson. So, I mean, on paper, right, when you're looking at it on paper, Amanda Nunes hits hard, amazing boxing range, has good ground game, and also has very good trips, hip tosses, and takedowns, especially on the cage. Like, she knows how to use her body, she knows how to use her force, and she creates a tremendous amount of it. So that's going to be interesting, versus the long, lanky, leggy kind of physique of Megan Anderson. That's always going to be kind of Megan's for opponents. That's what they have to get past, you know. And especially up in the cage, up against the cage, her clinch work is pretty good. Her head positioning is excellent. She really uses her length, drives her head into the opponent, and really like lifts up. And so their opponent is literally like almost lifted off the ground every time, because Megan Anderson is huge, okay? She's super tall, and is able to land knees of her own and basically take advantage of that position. She also does really well pushing fighters back, and keeping them at the end of her range. So when someone's coming forward, it's a little bit harder for her, like fighting backwards, but if she's able to push fighters forward, she uses her punches and then throws in the kick at the end and just keeps them in that last part of her boxing range and that full part of her kicking range. And she'll throw that as combinations. She'll be jab, jab, right hand, push them back, and then throw in the kick and then come at them again. And she's able to create a lot of distance backwards doing that, which is interesting. It'll be interesting to see how Amanda Nunes gets past the length. But to be honest, I think that's kind of the same in Jermaine Durandamine, you know, who I find to be just a more dangerous striker than Megan Anderson. But it'll be interesting to see her game plan. You know, she has James Krause in her corner. Clearly, after she made that change, you know, we started to see changes in her game, changes in her IQ, the decision making that she's displaying in there. And you know, 14 fights at the end of the day, that's not a lot. That's not a lot. And you're fighting for a title against probably the greatest women's fighter of all time, you know, and Amanda Nunes. Interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what the wizard James Krause has for Megan Anderson as far as creating a game plan that she can execute. Because one thing being rangy is you must have an excellent jab. You must know your range like the back of your hand. If you don't, you're in so much trouble, like more trouble than like a shorter fighter not having those things, you know? So that's the only thing that I get worried about is, you know, she does have heavy hands when she does connect, you know, as far as when she does make contact with people, it's very clear that she hits hard, you know, but I just get worried about how underutilized the jab and the range management is in the MMA world. Like, in boxing is imperative, right? It's imperative that you have a good jab, and yet people still, you know, they may rely on the power hand, they may rely on other elements, but that is the fundamentals for the long, lanky striker. And, you know, if Megan Anderson can do that, that might be her way to win there. I do have Amanda Nunes winning inside the distance. I think she can close the gap, and, you know, she hits hard, man. She hits hard, and she's throwing with intention. She's throwing with intention to hurt you. And it's not that hesitant, oh, let me just stick that out there, oh, let me just pat, pat, pat. No, she's going to come and she's going to try and take your head off. And as far as clinch work, I mean, Amanda Nunes, like I said earlier, her ability to create force and momentum in the clinch, she's strong, man. She's strong. But, I mean, Megan Anderson can fight with that head position and give her some trouble there. I just am not entirely convinced. That I'm gonna have to see it for myself to really believe in the clinch work of Megan Anderson and compare to Amanda Nunes. You know, if we're looking at striking volume, you know, Amanda Nunes is out here throwing 4.4 strikes landed per minute, and Anderson is 1.82. And then if you're looking at the striking and accuracy, Amanda Nunes is up at 51% and Megan Anderson is at 46%. Now, that's not bad necessarily, you know. That is still a significant gap. Along with the takedown defense, Amanda Nunes is up at 84% and Anderson's takedown defense is at 33%, which Holly Holm exposed. Amanda Nunes is a black belt, so if she can get her down and get to her back, I think that's a short night. But in a way, I would kind of like to see that happen, to see how Megan Anderson has adjusted her game on the ground. I think that's really important. Element to see. Sometimes we don't get to see what fighters have been working on, and I know that's an element of her game that she really was like, okay, I need to fix this, I need to go hard on this. So that is going to do it for us. We're going to be looking at Dominic Cruz, Kyodor Jan, and Amanda Nunes, all to get it done. But UFC 259, Israel Adesanya, my favorite fighter, is going to be challenging to be a champ, and I am so excited. I'm just going to be sitting and enjoying, and I hope you guys enjoy the card as well. Shout out to MMA.
And we're back.
I wasn't sure if you were going to say anything.
Had a little bit of a loop there for a second. Colin and I got caught up in a little conversation behind the scenes.
Yes, we are, but we are back, and we were in a conversation, and now we're not. But I want to thank our buddy here, what's his name? Ibzan Arroyo, Ken Shamrock. I know you're a fan of his, and he's an awesome dude. We did have him on the show a couple of times. We had him on about 4 years ago, and we had him on about a year and a half ago. He's a super cool dude. Love him or hate him, Ken Shamrock was one of the original badasses, one of the OGs of no holds barred fighting guys of any size. He was a thick, muscular guy. Yeah, he admitted to steroids, but he never weighed more than like 225 pounds in MMA, and he's about 5'11" or 6 feet tall, always fighting heavyweights in those early days. So he was a smaller guy that definitely, had no fear, of anyone. So definitely much respect to Ken Shamrock. Yes, when he did jump into WWF back then, which is WWE now, I think he ballooned to 250 pounds. I shouldn't say ballooned, it was mostly muscle. But in his MMA days, even at heavyweight, he was never more than like 220, 225. So big respect to Ken Shamrock. Love him or hate him with all his flaws. And he fought until his 50s. So who does that? Huge respect for Mr. Shamrock as far as his fighting career. And some people love him.
Who does that? It seems like everybody's doing it now, but yeah.
Well, not 50s, but 40s. A lot of guys are trying to.
Yeah, 40s and coming back for an exhibition match or something.
That you're right with. I'm sorry, with Mike and with Mike Tyson and with Roy Jones. Yeah, and then that was really pretty cool. Commentator Mauro Ranallo was awesome. Mauro, all respect to him, was normally kind of a average sized guy who may have weighed about $160, and he looked like he was weighing about 200 pounds, which is evidence that closing the gym and other stuff all over the world wasn't good for a lot of people's bodies. Almost everyone I know, including me, gained a little bit of weight, and then Moro was asking a 64-year-old Sugar Ray Leonard if he was ready to come back, and Sugar Ray said, "If it's against you, yes."
If it's against you,
that was awesome, But anyway, yeah, Frank's cool. So Pulsar Light is saying, what about Frank Shamrock?
Yeah, we've had him on twice.
Yeah, we have. Frank Shamrock is a unique dude. He's very different than Ken. They were not blood brothers, but they were adopted together. Not together. They were adopted by the same guy, the late Bob Shamrock, and I think Ken was already in his early 20s when Frank came in there in his like 17 or almost 18. Frank is an unusual dude, a smart guy, really talented fighter back in the day. Everyone wanted to train with him. He's a smart guy. He was a good commentator. Unique personality. Had some problems with this situation with leaving a dog in the car that a lot of people are pretty angry about. Frank Shamrock, unusual guy, but was a legendary fighter. Ken is in the UFC Hall of Fame. Frank will never be in the UFC Hall of Fame, probably as long as Dana White's alive, because they don't like each other at all. But is what it is. Frank Shamrock, a good fighter, unique person. Love him or hate him, he's a unique dude for sure. So we still have a few minutes.
Yeah,
Doc.
we have a few minutes. I'm just going to go on to this one. We were talking about this while we were playing those clips there. Do you think Song Yadong's going to be able to pull off a win on accident again?
Yeah, really, exactly. That's what I was saying. Song Yadong, all respect to him. His team, Alpha Male, is absolutely a great team. Josh Emmett's over there, Sarah McMahon, some really great people. Uriah Faber, the legend. However, personally, and I think Dr. Adam Roorda agrees with me, and a lot of media people agree with me, that Song Yadong's last 2 wins weren't wins. I think he had a draw and a win, and I thought he lost to both Cody Stamen and Marlon Chito Vera. So he's kind of got the luck of lucky charm with MMA judges, and I think that's gonna
He must drive around everywhere with horseshoes or something
like that. He's a lucky dude, but no disrespect to Song Yadong, but I think his luck runs out here. I think either Kyler Phillips beats him, which I think is very likely, or Kyler Phillips fights him to like an even draw, but they give the win to Kyler Phillips, or maybe even Yadong.
I want to see that happen.
Wins, or maybe even what might even be justice is if Yadong wins and they give the decision to Kyler Phillips. So I'm looking for one way or another the luck to run out for Song Yadong and Kyler Phillips as a slight dog to win that fight.
Now we have a couple other undercard fights that are just like off the charts in my opinion. We've got Joseph Benavidez going against Askar Askarov. Who do you think is going to take that one?
Well, first of all, with the name Askar Askarov, I'm trying to think how we could apply our names to that. You would be Adam Adamov.
Askar Roorda.
I would be Colin Kolinov. But I like
just
that.
Askar Roorda.
Askar Roorda. No, I'm saying whatever you
It's okay. It's like
whatever it is. Anyway, Askar Askarov is a double tough dude. Slight favorite over Joseph Benavidez. Man, I would like to see Joe B, as they call him, win a fight after getting smashed by Davidson Figueiredo. I just don't know. He's got a lot of miles on him, and he's getting a little bit old for this division. I'm going to cheer for Benavidez, but I think Askarov probably beats him. I wouldn't bet on the fight, though. What do you think?
I'm going to be putting a little bit of money on Benavidez. This is one of the dogs that I will take. It's almost even.
Yeah, slight dog.
Slight dog.
Yeah, it's a dog still. Dog is a dog. Okay, and then also you have the legend Dominic Cruz against Casey Kenny. That's such an interesting fight. Dominic Cruz, I think, probably has twice as many fights as Kenny, but he's competed as a pro for probably 8 years longer, and he's been in the UFC for probably 10 years longer than Kenny. But he's coming off that loss, getting caught and stopped by Triple C Henry Cejudo. But man, and he's a slight dog against Casey Kenny. You know, I'm going for Dominic Cruz there. It's so tough to say though, man. If Cruz has lost a step since his last fight a year or more ago, then Kenny could very well beat him. But I think I'm going to go for the slight dog there in Dominic Cruz. It's rare that you can get Dominic Cruz as an underdog in a fight, except for against Henry Cejudo, and I think he can beat Casey Kenny.
For my straight pick on this, I'm going with Casey Kenny.
Gotcha.
I'm going with the favorite.
Gotcha. All right, and then Thiago Santos and
Alexander
Rakic. Man, that's going to be so tough. I mean, Rakic seems like he's on the upswing, and Santos doesn't. Santos having had the knee surgeries and then getting kind of grinded out a little bit, not completely, but you know, just kind of grounded out a little bit by a resurgent Glover Teixeira, but there's no shame in that. Glover looks like he should be next for the title at the light heavyweight division. And nevertheless, man, I like Rakic. He's such a nice guy. I just don't know. On that one, I probably Rakic, but I think Santos's back is against the wall a little bit. He's going to be fighting really hard, so I have to be on the fence on that. Any thoughts, Doc?
I'm going with Rakic on this one.
Makes sense. The next ones I have picks. I'm going for the dog, Drew Dober against Islam Makhachev, and he's a substantial dog. We're talking about 3.5 to 1. You can get anywhere from plus 260 to plus 309 on Drew Dober, the great fighter from Nebraska, on a streak. But Islam Makhachev, a lot of people are saying he's like the second coming of Khabib, and he is a teammate of Khabib Nurmagomedov. Man, Drew is going to have to be so focused and on point, but I think Drew can do it. And I will say this, even if Makhachev wins, it's going to be a struggle. I just do not see Makhachev absolutely annihilating or smashing Drew Dober, and these odds maybe don't imply that sort of dramatic win, but I think they're wider than they should be, and so I'm going Drew Dober for the win. And I do think that if he doesn't win, it's going to be a good fight. He's going to make Makhachev really work for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same page. I called it earlier. I put him out as my first dog pick, actually, going for Dober. And now the three other fights, why don't you touch base with our next guest here?
Yes, we'll do
They're
that.
coming on in a moment. So
excellent. And before we do, let me answer Pulsar Lights questions. We're not really covering ADCC. We're working on starting to maybe get a little bit of our show for just grappling only, Pulsar Lights, and at that point we'll definitely cover ADCC as well as EBI.
And I'm going to interject on the ADCC. We are actually looking for writers for our website for that. So if anybody's interested, hit us up on our Facebook page specifically. Hit us up with a message, and I will reach out to you. Also, I have to agree with the person commenting before that, Jay Elinero, and I hope I didn't butcher their name, but UFC's lightweight division is second tier.
Next to Bellator.
Yeah,
you know,
I actually agree. I brought that up last week, and I think that is accurate.
He's got a good point, but one thing is for sure that the light heavyweight division is Bellator's strongest division for sure. So that might be why UFC is second, because in all the other divisions, probably UFC is first, although they do have a good welterweight division. But anyway,
you got to be careful now with the news on Overeem and Dos Santos. If they decide to go over there, that could start warming that
could get that heavyweight
division.
And Overeem was with Overeem was never with Bellator. He was with Strikeforce, but it was Scott Coker. So Scott might invite him over there. We'll have to see.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see that happen with at least one of them.
Yeah, I would not either. All right, we're ready for our next guest, Dr. Adam Roorda.
Excellent. That'll take me a second, but then we will.
No problem.
I got everything else prepared. We're ready to go, and Skype dance.
Rock and roll, Skype dance, baby.
Drop that beat. Skype.
Drop it.
Skype dance.
Hey, Jamal, are you there?
What's up, bro?
Everything good, man. Everything good. How about yourself?
Shit, I got COVID.
Oh, you got COVID? Oh, no.
You see my post? I've been sick the last couple of days.
Damn, I didn't see that, man. So are they pulling you off the 13th fight, or are they going to see how you heal up?
Just gotta wait and see.
That's cool, man. Well, you know, we still want to talk to you, man, because people still want to see what you have going, man. You're up on that post from the UFC showing their undefeated fighters. I think you're among only about 7 other people that have at least a couple fights in the UFC undefeated. And so we're happy to talk to you. Let me give you the proper introduction, man. So happy to have this next fighter on the show again from my home state of Michigan. He does have a fight scheduled. It looks like it may be up in the air now, but we're talking about a big light heavyweight match against the man from Scotland, Paul Craig. We're talking about Mr. Jamahal Hill. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Hey, what's going on? How you doing?
Everything good. All good, man. I'm excited to talk to you. Now, was that fight scheduled for the 13th or 20th? Maybe I'm wrong. Was it the 20th, maybe? It was the 20th. Okay, so there is some time there, man. So
for the 20th.
It was scheduled for the 20th. Okay. So let me ask you, man. It's weird when I hear that fighters are getting COVID and you guys are training like animals. And I'm thinking to myself, man, how is this COVID happening when you guys are still able to train like for hours and hours in the gym? Or am I wrong? Did you immediately feel this COVID and you couldn't even barely get out of bed, or has it been like almost no effect on you? What's going on with you as far as the COVID?
Definitely symptomatic. I've had pretty much all the symptoms for
Okay.
the most part, other than like extreme breathing problems.
Okay. So it almost feels like kind of a cold or flu or what?
Yeah, it's pretty much like a real bad case of the flu. You get body aches, fever, really chilled to the bone, and you develop a cough.
Mm.
I developed my cough like today.
Gotcha.
Chest congestion. I was spitting out some pretty nasty shit.
That's not good. And now, are they asking you, like, as much as you can say, because I don't want to try to push you on something you can't disclose, but is UFC like saying something like, you got to let us know how you feel by like such and such a date, or is there any like certain time or anything?
We're just playing it day by day to see how I feel.
That makes sense. And then there's also the question, man, that like you already were doing like some hard training for this fight for what, 2 weeks or a month or what?
I've been training for weeks. I've been in camp for weeks.
Okay, so how would it work, man? Let's say like by a week from today you feel better, but let's say it takes a full 5, 6, 7 days for that, and all of a sudden, let's say we're at March 9th or 10th. What would you do if it was up to you?
What do you mean? As far as what do you mean?
Well,
as long as
go ahead.
It all depends on how I feel. As long as it don't affect my cardio or anything, I'm gonna fight.
Makes sense.
That's basically how we looking at it. We're waiting to see like how my body reacts to it and how I recover from it. If I recover, I'm good to go. I'm gonna be in there.
Makes sense. Has anyone from your team ever come down with this before, and have they ever had any experience they can share with you about how long it took for them to shake it?
Yeah, I know a few people that have had it. Everybody's experience is different though, from what I'm getting.
Understood. Remind us of the team that you're with over there.
With been the same team since day one, Black Lions.
That's right, Black Lions, and
Academy under Chad Pomeroy. It's my head coach and my jiu-jitsu instructor since I was 18. Then I got my striking coach. I'm under the MMA striking system from under Johnny Grigware. You know, it's been my guy. I've been with him since I was 18.
Nice. So what do you think about this opponent? We might as well talk about it as though it is going to happen, because it still might. Paul Craig is an interesting guy, isn't he, man? Have you ever noticed that the Scottish have that accent that's the hardest to understand out of anyone that speaks English? Have you ever noticed that?
Nah, I don't know, man. I done heard some pretty thick accents from other places that was kind of hard to understand.
Have you? Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to rip on the Scottish, because I've got a friend that's from Scotland. And
just being real.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. But it's funny, man. But yeah, but now, what do you think about a guy like that? He likes to put on the Scottish flag on his face with that white and blue and get in people's faces. Would that be something that would bother you at all, or what do you think your reaction would be if he does his normal thing?
But I don't care what he put on his face and all of that, but that whole getting up in my face shit, that ain't something that he want to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Makes sense.
Because when you get my bubble, that's like go time. We gonna have our night. So all that extra show antics and shit that he like to do, getting up in the face, I don't play that shit.
Yep. I know it from Michigan. We don't, even back when I was a kid. Yeah.
Bro, I'm from the streets, bro. It's a certain way. It's still certain shit you just can't. You just don't do.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think
I'm beat that ass. Don't worry, the ass whooping still coming.
Yep.
Just extra shit. Come on now.
Absolutely. And I think you guys are about eye to eye. You're both about 6'4", I think, right? Say that again,
like,
Jamahal.
that's like I didn't hear what you said.
I was saying you guys are both about 6'4", so you're kind of like eye to eye, I think, right?
He's a little shorter than I am, I believe.
Okay, that's interesting, because a lot of times he comes in mad dogging people that are shorter than him, and so he's got his head coming down on them. So yeah, it'd be interesting. But what do you think about the challenge that he presents? Are you excited about fighting him? Did you ask for him, or did he ask for you, or how did that matchup come to play?
It was brought to us. Originally, when we were offered the fight, we were offered the fight on the Holloway Cater card. But I just came off my fight with OSP, and And in that fight, I ate a pretty nasty kick that kind of did some nerve damage. So I wasn't able to, you know what I mean, train like I wanted to be. So I wasn't going to be up to, I was a little heavy and things like that. And then he had some stuff going on to where he wasn't going to be ready. So they decided to book it for this date.
Makes sense. And who was your last opponent?
OSP.
That's right. I remember that, man, because we were cheering for you. You had been on our show, I think, a week before that. That was an amazing fight, man, because OSP is a tough guy. I think that fight probably got you some more respect even than you had before, didn't it?
I can't call it. Maybe from the fans and people that pay attention to it, but from the people at the top and shit, I can't call it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
It is. I keep doing what I'm doing, and you know what I mean, eventually, you don't have to respect it.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. That's the beautiful about this sport. That's the beautiful thing about this sport. You can't fake it. You can't front it.
Nope.
You can't dismiss it.
Nope.
It's real gonna come out regardless.
It is. It absolutely is. So what do you think about all the action going on here, man, at light heavyweight, man? We've got a big fight coming up, and we've got several people that are up there at the top that have been around for a while. I mean, other than Izzy jumping up to go against Jan Blachowicz, you got Glover Teixeira up there. You've got Alexander Rakic going to be fighting against Thiago Santos this weekend. You still have Anthony Smith up there. Let's say this fight does come off with Paul Craig. Would you be down for going up against one of those guys in like the top 5, 6, 7, or 10 after that?
For? What am I here for?
That's right. Yeah. You're not.
You know what I'm saying, what am I here for?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm for everybody. I want to smoke with everybody.
Nice.
Everybody.
You're not.
Y'all want what I want.
Yep.
Y'all got the same dream I have.
Yep.
Everybody's dreams can't come true in this.
That's right.
I'm gonna be damn sure they can do.
I like it. So you're not feeling like some guys like they need more time or anything, right?
Oh.
Cool. Good. I like that, man.
Everybody, like, that's like a narrative that's played out through like media and like fans, like, oh, he just needs to build up a little bit. Build up to what?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
My hand's still elite. My ground game is still elite. Everything in my fighting style is still elite.
Absolutely.
Against any better, I'm willing. And if I already feel like I'm here to compete with everybody, compete with the best, what do I need to wait for?
Without a doubt. Can I ask you a question that just came in from one of our fans?
I need to catch up to my money.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you. Let me ask you a question that one of our fans just asked, Jamal. Jay Elenero just asked if we could ask you what you feel about weed in combat sports. And then he also wanted to say that he did think it was BS that they took the win over Klidson Abreu away from you regarding weed. But what's your feeling, if I can ask, about, you know, the fact that it does seem like finally people are not going to be worried about testing for weed, and can weed help? Can it hurt? What's your position on that?
Why do people think that? I mean, let me y'all need to understand this. The whole UFC and USADA clearing the thing and everything, that was just for just to be on record doing that shit. They wasn't tripping about that shit to begin with.
Right.
USADA wasn't putting up at your crib testing you for weed. You know what I'm saying? It's an in-competition thing. You know what I mean? You're still going to be tested for it in competition by the commission because that's how they make their money.
Interesting.
They make money through firing. They make money through firing people. Why would they give that up?
Yeah, that makes sense. So then,
if they would take like a cool 10% or something from your person. We making tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
why wouldn't they do that?
You're right about that. Kind of a money making deal. Yeah.
To me, it's more money. It's not about the integrity of the sport. It's about them getting a little extra cheese.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate to see that. You know what I mean? But it seems like there's always some sort of organization that's in there to try to get that extra cheese, like you mentioned. What's your thought though, as far as competing with it? Like the Diaz brothers, you know, almost always say that they would smoke some weed, and it's just normal for them to fight with it. What's your feeling? Does it help? Does it hurt? Does it not do anything?
Obviously, you're putting smoke in your lungs. It's going to affect your cardio some. Right. To some degree. I just don't feel like it's really a factor one way or the other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Other than the cardio thing, which the Diaz brothers, like people love to use the Diaz brothers because of popularity thing, but from a record standpoint, as me being an undefeated fighter,
Yeah.
and I mean a lot of people that are in the game now with records that they got, them boys like I don't really follow their lead or their blueprints on how to do shit.
Absolutely. I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
Being superior than that.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I agree.
I don't want to know for being I want to be known as like being like truly one of the best and truly one of the greatest, not just somebody for antics.
No, it makes sense.
That's,
right.
Like I'm from the streets for real. Like
Yep.
for real.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
that shit, so a lot of shit that the Diaz brothers pull and shit do to me, it's clown shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I agree. You know, I mean,
like to the masses, it may seem like gangster shit, but nah, bro.
Not really. Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. Makes sense to me, man. It's true. And they're kind of yesterday's news.
To bring to like the whole Joe Riggs thing about them jumping him in the hospital.
Yeah.
That can possibly fuck with your money. That's not gangster. That's stupid.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
Real gangsters move in silence, bro.
Yep. No, I believe it. It makes sense. I will definitely agree with you on that. And I know you're not a fan of the Diaz's, and pretty soon they may be gone bye anyway.
When he fights, I watch.
Right.
I'm going to watch. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But some of the capping, like some of the how they labeled and looked at and shit is just the whole flipping off the camera and shit. That shit.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you, man.
Get you no in my hood.
No, not for sure in Detroit. Not for sure. That's for sure.
I'm not in Detroit. Grand Rapids.
That's right. Grand Rapids. Yeah.
I was born in Chicago. I was raised in Grand Rapids.
Yep. Absolutely. I believe it, man. No, I know what you're saying. So, Jamahal, let me ask you about some guys that are not named Diaz that are fighting this weekend, if I may.
I didn't even realize how fucking stacked this card was.
Crazy, isn't it?
God.
I know. This is. Yeah.
You got at least like fucking 5 to 6 headliners on this card.
It's amazing. This is one of the most stacked cards I have ever seen. And for everyone watching, yeah, we're talking about UFC 59. Let me pick your brain on these if I could, because it sounds like a lot of these guys you recognize and have respect for. So let me see if I can start a little bit lower down the card. And let me ask you, are you familiar with the guy I think he's from Nigeria, fighting out of Texas, Kennedy Nchukwu against Carlos Ulberg? Yeah. What do you have any thoughts on him, man? You think he takes that fight? He's a big dog against this guy Carlos Ulberg.
He actually his UFC debut was made against my dog Daquan.
Oh wow.
Wasn't it? That's the dude who made his debut against Daquan, right?
I think it was Daquan Townsend, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I seen him. I seen him. He all right. You know what I mean? I didn't really catch the fight after when he got knocked out
right
by the one guy, but he looks strong, powerful dude. And when he lands, it's fucking devastating. And he doesn't mind wrestling.
Yep.
So, I don't know. As far as the other dude, I don't really know. What's his other dude's name?
The other guy is Carlos Ulberg. I don't even know who that is either. I don't know why he's favorite over Kennedy Nchukwu. But you know what's
you know how that shit is. You lose a fight, somebody lose a fight, and all of a sudden you just can't. And people act like they just can't see them winning.
Right. It's weird that way.
That I know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You know, Kennedy, if you remember, he fought the man that you're.
Fight. It's exciting. So shit.
Without a doubt. If you remember, Kennedy fought Paul Craig, the man that you're scheduled to fight on March 20th.
Did he win?
He was beating him, and then I think in the third round, Paul Craig was on his back, and Paul Craig is tall like you guys, 6'4", whatever, 6'5", and Kennedy was in his guard, and Craig went to lock in his arm for an armbar from the guard, and Kennedy started to pull his arm out, and then Paul Craig yanked his wrist and pulled his arm back in and triangle choked Kennedy. But Kennedy's had, I think, mostly wins since then.
I can see that.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's tough. But let's go up higher on the card, man. Do you follow the little guys at all, or just guys that are more close to your weight?
Yeah, I follow. I try to follow everybody as much as possible.
Cool. All right, let's go all the way up to Dominic Cruz, the former champion, the man who I think has had more knee surgeries than any other UFC fighter in history. And so
And still dog and still come in and fight at the championship level.
exactly. So I have a lot of respect for him. They're making him a slight dog against Casey Kennedy, that young guy. I think he's like got blonde hair or something that's been looking pretty good.
It is the motherfucker who had the little slick shit to say about Megan.
I think so. Yeah, that's right. He said she was a 4 or 5 a.m. and that came back and blew up in his face.
Yeah, bro. Like he got bitches like that.
I know, right? Exactly, man. I don't know what he was thinking.
Hell, bro. You look like nah, I ain't gonna say.
No, exactly.
Almost says ill shit.
I know.
My man walking around with his like some chewed bubble gum, talking crazy.
Yeah, I don't know what supermodel he's getting, but yeah, not
right.
Yeah.
And what dimes is you bagging?
Exactly. Exactly.
Can't
right.
Tell me, bro. If anything, if I had to guess, you was paying for us, bucko.
Exactly, man. But yeah, that came back to him. But what do you think, though, man? I think Dominic Cruz can beat him. Yeah.
I got the chance. Now all the bullshit that he said about my homegirl aside, you know what I'm saying? He do scrap. My man scraps.
Nice.
But I've seen nothing in his arsenal that how you gonna deal with that movement, that in and out, that pop, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then whenever you didn't throw too hard, he'd dump your ass on your head.
Yeah, exactly. Dom is a beast, man. Dom is super talented, and he may be an older guy for those lower weights, but he's still got something left. Yeah, I think he wins this fight.
The champion has beaten Dominic Cruz.
Exactly. No one except for the best.
That Cruz has ever lost has been a champion.
I believe you're right. It was either Uriah Faber back when Uriah Faber was a beast, or it was Henry Cejudo, except for Cody, and then Cody beat him, and then Cody became the champion. So you're right. Yeah, that's right. Without a doubt, I agree. Big respect for Dominic Cruz. Now, let's get on to one that I know you're excited to watch. And although I don't know, you may not be super excited to watch your division, but I would imagine you would be, because it can be someone you're going to be fighting down the line. Can you break down how you think Alexander Rakic and Thiago Santos is going to play out, and then give me a winner if you can, or if not, if you're on the fence, that's cool too.
Oh, well, Rakic has got from what I've seen, he's got a nice build for the division.
Big man.
He's used to fucking decisions, like a lot of decisions, so gas tank shouldn't isn't really a thing for him. Not too blown away with, not too crazy. Like, I don't think he's really a knockout guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's more of a grind out a victory type of, whereas Thiago Santos is a fucking take your fucking head off guy.
Yep.
Yeah, I see Thiago winning this one, man.
Yeah. You don't think
he's durable and he's powerful, man. He's durable, he's powerful. I think the experience, the what he's went through in his last 2 fights and who he fought in his last couple fights, will help a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm too big on the experience factor thing. You know what I'm saying? But I think to some degree being in there with that level of competition will actually pay benefit if the fight gets hard.
Yeah, because they say, right, iron sharpens iron, and being in there with people like Glover Teixeira on the tear Glover's on, yeah. Because I think the people that are picking Rakic think that Rakic could pretty much do just what Glover did, but I don't think you feel that he doesn't have that same wrestling that Glover has, I think, right?
And not only that, I think Glover's wrestling is more from jiu-jitsu based, so it's completely different than regular wrestling.
Yeah, good point. All right. Yep. So you got the underdog. You got the slight underdog in Santos. Gotcha. I'm gonna go through these next one quick because I know we got. Go ahead. All right.
I might throw some money on it.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, exactly, man. I think there's a good chance for Santos. Anyway, we got only about 4 minutes left with you, so I want to try to get your quick opinion on these. You got an opinion on Islam Makhachev, man? He's like a younger Khabib that trained with Khabib. He's supposed to be like just as good against Drew Dober. Any opinion on that one?
I don't know. I ain't seen it. I don't know much about it.
not a problem.
I seen it fights, but I ain't really seen nothing to be like that's of course that's what they gonna say. They gonna hype their mans up.
Yep, makes
You know what
sense.
I'm saying? I can say we'll see.
Makes sense. Let's go to the 3 title fights. Let's start out with the bantamweight title fight. Aljamain Sterling, the man they call Aljo from New Jersey, New York, New Jersey area, against the Russian Piotr Yan, the current champion. I think Aljo takes it. They have this fight like nearly even. You know what? They have the champ a slight favorite, Piotr Yan. What do you think? Aljo Sterling against Yan.
I'm going with Aljo. He's lighter on his feet. I like his creativity. That's one thing that always entertains me about Aljo's fights is his creativity, and then he creatively gets to his strength, which is getting his hands on you.
Yeah.
You know, Peter Yan has good wrestling and things like that, but Aljo is just different on the ground, man. Like I think he came from a wrestling background, and then he went into jiu-jitsu with Matt Serra, one of the best jiu-jitsu guys, MMA jiu-jitsu guys that you can ask to train with. You know what I'm saying? So I think his shit is just a little bit on a different level, and then just the movement on the feet. I don't think his striking is all that bad.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
So
I think you're right.
Aljo.
Cool. I got Aljo too. Hey, I just found out from my producer we only have 1 minute left. Give me 30 seconds on each of these next ones. Megan Anderson, she got any chance against the champ Amanda Nunes?
Everybody got a chance. You know, she's been putting that work in, so I can see her landing some shots and maybe sticking to a solid game plan and getting it done.
Possible, right? Anything's possible. Long shot though, huh?
It's tall order.
Makes sense. And then the final one, Jan Blachowicz, the big man, 37 years old from Poland, with that big punch coming to Israel Adesanya, jumping up from 185, talking about making 205 his home, that he's going to be the king. What happens in that fight?
I don't know. It's either going to be if it's a crisp, clean, pretty striking display, Izzy wins. If it's more of a brawl and an all-out and a dog fight, I give it to Jan.
Makes sense. It's going to be exciting, though, man. I know you'll be watching it closely. So 2 good light heavyweight fights on this card, including the title fight, man. Can't wait to see you up in the picture, possibly even later this year. I hope you feel better, man. And if you do, you know, hope we can see you against Paul Craig. But if you don't feel better, man, everyone's got to know a man can't fight if he's feeling sick. And so that will be that. Let us know if you have a minute, you know, when that's determined. But either way, we're cheering for you. I know originally from Chicago, but living in Michigan, I'm a Michigan guy. So big respect to you, Jamahal Hill. Big fan. Thank you so much for jumping back on with us. Say again?
Chicago made me, Michigan raised me.
I like it. Fantastic. Thank you so much for jumping back in the MMA Power Hour. Really appreciate you a lot.
All right, bro. Have a good night.
You too, brother. Take care. And that was Jamahal Hill. I hope that fight happens, man. I tell you, I feel terrible seeing that he has COVID. I mean, he's a tough guy. He's a man that will go for it, even with being sick only a few weeks before his fight. If he can just feel well enough, you know, he will go and fight. But, man, it's tough that fighters are put in that position, because I know in boxing, when those millions of dollars are out there, I know they hate to miss a matchup, but I almost think that if they're sick like this right in the middle of camp, within a few weeks of the fight, a lot of times they'll back out. But in the UFC, they pride themselves really on people not backing out unless they're absolutely very sick at the time. So we'll see. I know that our guy is a young man. He's undefeated. And I think as long as he can be sick for no more than just a few more days, I think maybe he'll have enough to make March 20th, being that it's only March 3rd right now. So big respect to Jamahal Hill, and hope to see him against Paul Craig. Hope Paul Craig doesn't get in his face with that Scotland war paint, you know,
Right.
because Dana might have to have someone bigger than him get in between those two big men at the weigh-ins if Paul Craig tries to mad dog my man here from Michigan, Jamahal Hill. Hopefully, you know,
Absolutely.
We'll see what happens.
It'll be
man.
interesting.
Yeah, that would
Well,
be
hey,
very-
Colin, another amazing episode. 3 amazing guests in Jamahal Hill, Jason Witt,
Witt.
and the very talented actor. Make sure to go check out his upcoming release over on Hulu. boss level. We've got Mr. Frank Grillo.
Amazing. And then the other segment with our awesome Francesca Dominique. For a pretty girl, she knows MMA. She loves MMA. She's deadly serious about following it, and is a great MMA journalist and knows her stuff. She's got a knack for picking winners too. So
absolutely.
big
and
respect.
One last thank you to our sponsors. We got My Mocha Tribe. It's on the screen right now. MyMochaTribe.com. Go on over there and get your premium coffees. They've got CBD coffee as well for those of you who don't like the edge from coffee. It's seriously the best coffee you'll ever have.
Yeah.
Use the discount code MMAPower10 on checkout and you'll get a nice 10% discount. And also want to thank Nesa's Hemp. Going over to mmaph.nesashemp.com and get yourself full spectrum CBDA hemp oil. It's the only one on the market. Definitely get it. You get a nice discount when you go to mmaph.nesashemp.com.
Absolutely. After all, your life needs to be full spectrum, and this will help you attain that full spectrum life. It's a serious thing, though. Really great stuff, and it's a great product. Dr. Adam Roorda, I'm sorry if I'm stepping on your goodbyes, but thank you so much for all you do. I think you're ready to tap out. I'll tap out for you. The show looks great due to this man right here, Dr. Adam Roorda, and it's a pleasure working with you, man. I really enjoy it and appreciate you. And I think in the last seconds we have left, we'll be back next week with a great show. We've got some great people. We'll let you know who they are in social media, and I know one of them will be Randa Marcos, the Canadian, and a couple other great guests coming too. So take good care of yourself. Spread the love in a positive way. Be that guy, be that girl. It'll come back to you a million times over. Take care of your pets. They need your love. And